Good morning, I'm Brad Phillips. I'm here with Puppy Steps Training. Today we're going to be doing Bailey's demo for you. I'm sure you're excited to get her. We're excited to send her to you. She's just been a really great dog. Now, during this demo we are going to go through all 5 phases. I'll talk just briefly about socialization, and then we'll get her out and I will show you the manners, the obedience commands, the house training and crate training, and then the leash training. And so to start, just a couple things that I like to remind everyone. As you get her home, she is going to be undergoing a lot of stress. In this transition, she's going to a new place, new people, and she's going to need some time to adapt. And so you do need to be patient with her. Make sure that you focus more on getting a positive relationship built. Focus on that bonding time and make sure that you don't stress her out even more by expecting too much. And so all this training that we've done, everything for the most part slides over or transitions over relatively smooth. But you do need to make sure that she respects you as a leader, as well as you do have that positive relationship. And you're going to want to be consistent in rewarding and correcting, because as she transitions, she's going to be looking for information from you, trying to see what she's supposed to do, as well as she might even test water and see what she can get away with. And so it's important that you're consistent in rewarding and correcting. So now to talk once again just briefly on socialization. So that's the first thing that we do with our puppies when we get them. And to me, that's the most important thing you do with any puppy. And so we've spent a solid 2 weeks straight doing nothing but socialization. And so we got her out used to different people, different places, noises, car rides, just a variety of new experiences. But we do it in a controlled setting so that we can see if there is any anxiety or aggression or timid issues. We can then take care of them and make sure that if those issues are present, we can lessen them and make sure that we get more of a well-rounded dog. The only thing we've ever seen with Bailey is sometimes she can resource guard, and if another dog tries to take her thing, she will stand her ground. But besides that, she seems to be just a really fun, cute little dog. Loves to play and has plenty of energy, and I think you're going to enjoy her. So now we'll get her out, and we'll start with our manners. And so when we do let her out of the crate, I do expect her to hold a stay. It should be an automatic behavior, but once again, with all these things, she is still a puppy, and so there is that growing, that maturing, and sometimes you have to remind them. And so if she were to try and sneak out of the crate, I might simply close the door, maybe lift my leg up and block her. But it wouldn't be unless she was really persistent on pushing her way out that I would actually tell her to stay. So we're going to get her out now. Okay, good girl. Okay is our marker and our release word. It releases from a stay as well as it marks the correct behavior. I am going to apologize for our lighting. We kind of got some bad light coming in, so she might be washed out in the sun. But I will show you that same behavior as we go through the house door. I expect that any door or gate that we go through, I expect her to hold that stay. Now, if there's certain ones that you really want, you might have to spend a little bit of time making sure that she understands that she is expected to wait at that specific doorway. So the next manner would be her greeting. And so that's actually what she's doing now. She knows that before she gets any attention from me, she has to hold a sit, or she has to sit. And so anytime I call her, come here, before I give her that attention, I do expect her to sit, and I'll wait for that. Good girl. If she ever hesitates, you can either step into her, and if that doesn't work, you can actually ask her to sit. But anytime, come here. I'm going to wait for that sit. Good girl. Good girl. So the reason we have that greeting is, one, it gets eye contact. And dogs, if you have that eye contact, you know that you have their focus. As well as it's a replacement behavior for jumping. Jumping is a behavior that most puppies struggle with, and Bailey's no exception to that. She loves to jump. And so we spent a great deal of time on that. We've taught her the command off, and so if she does try and jump, whether it's up on a person or up on furniture, tell her off and expect her to get right down. If you do have a hold of the leash and she gets excited and wants to jump on someone, that is one time that I would use a leash correction, which is just 2 pops on the leash. You're not trying to yank her backwards, but it's more so to get her attention and deliver the command off. It's also important that if she's running up to you and you think that she might jump, it's important that you never step backwards. As soon as you step back, it's a game, you're encouraging her to jump. So instead, I'll always step into her. That way, a lot of times I restrict the space, and so she won't jump anyway. But if she does, I'll bring my knee up into her and tell her off, and that way I can block the jump. So now for her mealtime manners. Anytime that we feed her, we expect her to hold a sit stay. So where she's already sitting, I'll always ask her to stay. Okay, good girl. Now she does love her food and she will inhale it. And so a lot of times we will use a slow feeding bowl, or you can put like a tennis ball in the middle of it, try and slow her down. Because otherwise they swallow it real quick and then they'll throw it back up because they get an air bubble. So do try and slow her down. When we feed her morning and night. So in the morning it's usually around 7 after we get her out of the crate and let her use the bathroom. And then at night we try to keep it as close to about 6 o'clock as possible. That way she has a good 4 hours to clear her system before we put her in the crate for the evening. We've also been giving her about 1.5 cups both meals. So, good girl. Let's see. So we also spend just a lot of time handling them, handling ears, paws, tails, just making sure that she's not going to be aggressive towards me. I want to make sure that she's going to be alright with being handled and groomed and brushed and things like that. And so we spend a lot of time just making sure that there is no aggression. There is one time, however, that playful behavior can be mistaken for aggression, and that's with children. The dog just wants to play along. Kids are like the greatest thing ever. And so they're chasing him, they end up knocking him over, maybe grabbing a pant leg. Okay, outside. And we'll come back to that. We're going to take her outside now that she rang the bells. Okay, good girl. Okay. So we will discuss the house training in detail here in just a minute. So just going back to with kids, just so you don't have any accidents, I like to have small children, if they're going to play with my dog, they have to have a toy. That way, if she does get excited, she wants to play along, she can go after the toy. As well as if you do have a child that's maybe a little bit nervous, they can throw the toy and direct her away. Come here. There you go, good girl. Usually she's a very playful dog, she loves to play. However, once you start giving her food, that changes just a little bit. She gets really interested in the food. When we are playing, we can, other than she won't hold on to it long enough, we do have to command drop it, and I expect her just to freely release whatever she has. Drop it. Good girl, as well as stop going after it. If she ever wants to hold on to something, a couple things to do. One, you can just take the object and hold it really still so that she can't pull it around and bite it. And instead she has to just give it up because she's going to get bored with it. If it's long enough, you can take it on both sides. And if she still refused, I could just turn my knuckles in. Or you can just slip your finger right onto her tongue and press down, and she's going to open as wide as she can. Drop it. Good girl, good girl. Just like that. Drop it. No, good girl. Good girl. We've also taught her a command to be very gentle with her teeth, and that is gently. And so if she's excited, I can just tell her gently, and I expect her to be cautious when she takes the food out of my hand, as well as I'll always give it in the palm of my hand. And then the last manner is chewing. So when you get her, she is in the heat of teething. And so chewing is a behavior you can't escape. So we train on a base of avoiding and replacing. If you can avoid giving her free access to things, that's always the best way to prevent them from being chewed up. However, it's never possible. In your home, there's always something she has access to. And so that's where replacing comes in. If you see her go up and she wants to chew on a pillow or a soft bed, I would tell her no, and I'd give her something like that plush toy. She wanted to chew on a table leg, I'd give her something hard like that bully stick. You're just trying to match texture, and that way, because she's chewing based on what she feels her mouth needs, whether it's more firm or soft. And so if you can match that texture, you can also teach her what she's allowed to chew on and what she's not. So with that, I believe that concludes our manners. So now we'll move into our obedience commands. So with our obedience commands, we're going to start with our two most basic, which are come and watch me. And then I'll show you hand signals for sit, down, and stay. And then we'll show you our place commands, which are go to bed and crate. And then the last one is leave it. So the first one is just to get eye contact. Once again, if you can get their eye contact, you have their focus. And so this is also a command that I always use with food. And because I want this to be really firm, that anytime I ask her to look at me, that she will respond because she's expecting a high value reward. Watch me. Okay, good girl. And you can see just simple as that, she turns and makes eye contact. And now she's not going to look away again. But even I can put the food right in front of her nose. Watch me. Okay, good girl. Very simple command. But it's actually very useful if she's getting distracted, she's focusing on something else, you can tell she's going to go chase after it. Ask for that command, ask her to look at you. We've also started using her name in the same way, so that she would break eye contact, or focus on whatever is distracting her and make eye contact, as well as I follow that up with a come command. Really hard to show in our barn right now, but Bailey, come! Okay, good girl. That is a command. I'm not going to wait for her to sit. As soon as she gets to me, I'm going to reward it. In my opinion, that's one of the most important commands that you have. And so I would suggest working on it more than you use it. Bailey, come! Okay, good girl. What I like to do is I like to hook her on a long lead, and we'll go out to where she can just explore, sniff around, and about every minute or two, I'll call her to come. When she gets to me, I'll give her a treat just to let her go again. So it's really rewarding. She's getting treats, but she's also getting to explore. That way, if she ever doesn't follow through, I can reel her in. And I like to keep really positive repetitions on that. You know, do it 9-10 times just to give her a reward and let her go again. For that one time, maybe you have to crate her or you're done playing, whatever it is. Now with the hand signals. So sit is just simply a little scoop up over the nose. Simply like that. Down, I'll take my hand flat and I'll take her to the ground, and then stay as a stop sign. And so we'll stand her up here. Come here. Now ask her to sit. Down. Stay. No. Sit. Down. Stay. If she breaks, I'll just have her do it again. Okay, good girl. Good girl. And very similar, I can... No, sit. Stay. Now, if she's in a sit stay, I don't care if she lays down. However, like you saw, if she's in a down stay, she's never allowed to come up. Okay, good girl. Now she has great puppy stays, but don't be satisfied with them. Always strive to build those up, make them better and longer. We have what we call the 3Ds, and that's distance, duration, distraction. All three of those build a solid stay. Right now, with moderate distractions, she can go about 20 seconds. With heavy distractions, of course, she's lower than that. But she is doing very well with that. So, now our place commands. I'll show you the crate. Bailey, come here. Crate. I'll give her the treat as soon as she goes in, because some of the time you will be locking that door. Okay, and she is expected to stay until released. The crate command, I do treat similar to the come command. I want to work on it more than I use it. Okay, good girl. That way she doesn't get used to being locked up and then refuse to go in. Okay, good girl. Very similar. I'll tell her, go to bed. I don't care what position she's in, as long as all four paws are on the bed. No, hey, go to bed. And she is expected to stay. No, stay until released. Okay. You will notice when you get her home, she likes to go to bed. Try and predict what you're going to do next. And so she'll, as soon as you start working with her a lot, she'll just try and guess. And so then you have to slow down and just make sure that she focuses on you and listens. Okay, good girl. So now the last one is one that we actually work on a little bit more on the road, on walks, and that is leave it. But I can do it in here with some food. Come here. I'm going to drop a treat on the floor. I guess she needs to see it. Leave it. And I expect her to walk away from it, not trying to get it. And we can walk past it again. I can leave it. Nope, leave it. If I do have a hold of the leash like that, okay, I will give her just a little bit of pressure upwards. The important thing is when I do work on it with food, I don't allow her to pick up the food off the floor even after we're done. I'll give her a different treat and then I'll pick it up. That way she doesn't think that whatever it is, she can just wait a little bit and you're going to give it to her. So that concludes our obedience commands. Now we'll talk a little bit about the crate training and then the house training. So with crate training, we spend a lot of time getting her comfortable in the crate, making sure that she's not going to whine through the night and she's not going to have accidents. Right now she is sleeping through the night. We put her to bed about 10 and get her out around 6:30, and so she's a good 8.5 hours there. She has been, I said, sleeping through the night, no whining, no accidents, not even needing a break. However, with this transition she's going to go through, it's not a bad idea just to set an alarm and give her a break halfway through the night. The first couple nights, just because this transition causes a lot of stress. She's going to get a loose stool, she's going to have to go to the bathroom more frequently, so it's just, like I said, a good idea just give her a break halfway through. And if she has been in there longer than 2 hours, she starts whining, it generally means that she does need to go to the bathroom, and so you can just give her that break. If she starts whining initially when you put her in there, you do need to ignore that. She is somewhat testing you, seeing if you'll let her out. When they start doing that, I'll just give her something to chew on, like a bully stick or a marrow bone. Maybe even throw a blanket over the crate, just help her relax. She's also good to be in the crate for about 3 hours in the middle of the day, 3-hour blocks. So if you need a break or you need to run to the grocery store, you can put her in there and expect that she'll do just fine. So now the house training. So we have taught her to ring bells when she does need to go to the bathroom. It is an outlet. You've already seen this once, and she did go when we took her out. Now, this is the part that is the most involved for you as you get her home, to teach her where the bells are at and that they mean the same thing. And so when I do this, I like to use a method called free shaping, where I'm just going to stare at the bells and allow her to ring them, and she's going to just process it. Sometimes there's a big pause, but that's just her just kind of figuring out what I want. Come here. And so what I'll do is I'll just ask her to sit in front of me. I'll take a couple treats, break them up, and I'm just going to stare at the bells. Okay, good girl. I don't care how loud she hits it at this point, just that she does hit it. Okay, good girl. That's that pause that I'm talking about. She's really just trying to process what she has to do to get the treat at this point. Okay, good girl. If she lays down, you can stand her back up. Okay, good girl. Once she's consistently hitting them out of your hand, now I'm going to move over to the door, and I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, good girl. And I am going to switch the wording up now just a little bit. Okay, outside. Okay, outside. One more time, we're going to take her out. Okay, outside. Good girl. Okay. Okay. Now, if I were doing this at your home, I would turn around have her ring the bells a couple more times, go back outside, and I would do that 3 or 4 times. The purpose of this is to get her excited about ringing the bells, and by doing so, she's getting a lot of repetitions right off the bat of seeing where the bells are at, and that they mean the same thing, that you're taking her out to go to the bathroom. And so the first little bit, some people often ask me, well, isn't this turning it into a game? And the answer is a little bit at the beginning. Okay, get outside, and you can see, which I'm going to take the bells off for a minute because you're going to do this at your home. So, and I want to be able to talk to you instead of taking her out every 5 minutes, which is what this does. And so yes, it turns it into a little bit of a game. She's excited to ring the bells, but once again, by doing so, she's getting a lot of repetitions, as well as you're being able to take her out a lot in this first 24 hours. Now, we did this at first when we got her, and now we're to the point where she knows just to ring them when she needs to go to the bathroom. When you do this, she's going to want to ring them quite a bit. So, once again, it's a good thing you're getting the repetitions. When I take her out, I'll give her maybe a minute or two to pace around outside. Periodically, I will say the word outside. If she goes, I want to be just super positive. I'll tell her, okay, good outside, good girl. Pet her, give her a treat, and then come back in. If she doesn't go, there's no emotion, there's no contact, I just bring her right back in. So once you do this little exercise, after which I would set a timer for 30 minutes for the first day, and I would take her to the bell every 30 minutes. Unless she's in the crate, then you don't need to get her out every 30 minutes. But by doing this, you're going to stay ahead of her pee schedule, and so she's not even going to have an opportunity to have an accident. After the first 24 hours, you can start to lengthen that, go to 45 minutes, go to an hour to 2 hours. 2 hours is our standard, and I know that she can go 2 hours without needing to break. But in the next month, I would not let her surpass that, once again, unless she's in the crate. That way she just doesn't have an opportunity to have an accident. Also, you can look for signs. I'm sure you know this, that if she starts sniffing real heavily, I would just take her over to the bells. If she starts doing circles, I would skip the bells and run her outside as fast as you can. And then if she's been asleep for longer than an hour or so, she might need to go to the bathroom when she wakes up. She also has been going about an hour after eating, so that's kind of her routine a little bit. The most important part of this is 100% supervision. If she is out in the house, she has to be supervised. That's something that cannot be lax at all. If you can't give her that supervision, put her in a crate. She's fine in there. That way it gives you an opportunity to do what you need, but she's also not having accidents. So if you do have any questions about that, feel free to shoot us a message. And now the last part of our program is the leash work. And so we do take them on 2 different types of walks. The first is a long lead or an off-leash walk. And until she's coming to you persistently every time, not persistently, but consistently every time, I would keep her on a long lead. So when we do that, we take her up into the hills or down by the river, and it's just for her to be a dog. She can run around and sniff and play, and it's really good for her mental health. When I do that little come exercise where every minute or 2 I'll call her to me and give her a treat just to let her go again. That way we're really working on that come. She's staying close, but at the same time she's getting to play. The second type of walk is our attention walk, and that's more so if you are going to be in public or on a short leash. When we do that, I expect her to be by my side with a nice J shape in the leash. I'm not applying pressure at this point, and so I don't care whether she's like a step in front of me, that's fine. What I do want is that J shape and her not pulling. We do have 2 commands. The first is let's go, just signifying that we are moving, as well as I'll say that when we make corners. And then the second is easy if she starts to pull. If she does start to pull, I will come to a complete stop and I will give her those 2 leash corrections, just 2 pops on the leash and tell her easy. And I do expect her to put the slack back in the leash, or at bare minimum stop pulling. What she usually does is she'll just stop and sit down, which is great. So let's go outside and show you that. Let's go. Okay. When I start this type of walk, I do like to have her sit. That way I have her focus, and I am looking when we walk, a nice J shape in the leash, and I'm just going to tell her, let's go. If she starts to pull, I'll just tell her easy. I expect her to put the slack back in the leash. And when I stop, I do expect her to sit. Let's go. Let's go. And I'll tell her let's go when I make corners. Let's go. Good girl. Okay. Let's go.